Hey, we're live again, 3D Politics. I'm Tom McKay, your host. I've got all three Davids here in Oklahoma that matter. I've got David D'Ambroso, David Oldham, and David Van right here. We've got some exciting information tonight on the Sooner Tea Party, right? Yeah. Sooner Tea Party story. Exciting stuff there. Also, a cop in Blanchard pushing people around pushing their civil rights around. And what else have we got from you, Van?
Oh, we've got the Freedom Index just came out.
Freedom Index. Let's start with that story from Blanchard, David.
Well, I was just trying to put it up on our page, so it'll take me a minute because I'm going to talk. But
just a minute to talk?
well, in Blanchard, Oklahoma, the body cam footage was just released on the 27th and posted to YouTube. Made several news stations, but what happened was this gentleman was sitting in front of a house in Blanchard, waiting calmly by himself, doing nothing, and all of a sudden a cop comes up and demands his ID and says that he's had calls. Who knows if that was true or not, but he had calls. Activity and wanted to know who he was.
And this was an odd time of day or night? Or
this was middle of the day.
Middle of the day.
On private property?
No, he was sitting in front of a house on the street.
On the street. Okay.
And basically on the street, sort of in the right of way or up on the property, person's property, but not the property of anybody who called. Property he was there to be working with.
Apparently it was neighbors or something like that for the story.
Now, what is interesting, and watch the video, because it's very important to watch the entire video. What you find out is that he had good reason to be there. Ultimately, you find out he's an insurance adjuster who is there to do an adjustment on the door, even to look at a garage door.
Yeah.
But he does not feel that he has to answer any of the police officers' questions.
That arrogant jerk.
Exactly. and the thing is that the cop comes up and says he's conducting an investigation. Now, if you're conducting an investigation, you don't actually expect to get a real answer from somebody if they're there for nefarious purposes, correct?
Yeah.
I would think so, but that's the way it was approached. With all the evidence I've seen, no attempt was made to approach the supposed callers to do any investigation to find out what the man was doing. But anyway, so he asserts his rights to not answer any questions and to not show his ID because
that's just rude.
No reason for the police officer to be demanding it.
I'm sitting in the sarcasm chair tonight, okay? You know what? It is rude.
Well, and so basically what ends up happening is it goes on for 25 minutes. Ultimately, the police chief shows up and orders that he be put in handcuffs and arrested for obstructing the investigation of the officer.
Yeah, Trump's
who meanwhile, before the chief shows up, calls the assistant district attorney. You got her.
I'm okay.
Messenger.
Yeah.
Anyway, he calls an assistant district attorney for advice and is told there's nothing to it. There's nothing he can do, and they're searching for something he might be able to do for the guy, and he says there's nothing there because he's not doing anything illegal. And so he keeps hammering, and what got me also was how he just keeps hammering this guy, and will not let go and let no be no, and completely violates the man's Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights.
They actually cuffed the guy.
Actually ended up cuffing him.
Where can viewers find this video?
I'm going to place it as soon as we go into discussion. I'm going to place it on our website, 3D Politics.
Okay.
Onto our Facebook page.
Where are our viewers that are Democrats? Where can they find out what the Fourth and Fifth Amendment are?
Well, you can go to Constitution.org, where the entire Constitution is searchable, and you can find the whole thing. You can go also to our U.S. federal government website because it's there.
Now, the Miranda rights were based on some of these First Amendment or Bill of Rights things, and it says that you have a right to remain silent.
Yeah, that's the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Self-incrimination.
Yeah, and in Miranda rights, in order to arrest him, the first thing the cop would have to say is, "Sir, you have a right to remain silent." The guy says, "Hello."
Well, that's interesting because, and I've gotten several comments. I've put it up and asked for people to comment how to handle it constitutionally because it was not handled constitutionally.
Right.
Now, mind you, the first officer did it very politely. The police chief was much less polite. But the real thing was that that he never respected. Well, it's standard operating procedure. Exactly what he did.
Right.
All around the country. You go onto YouTube. You go onto Cop Block and watch these various videos. They all are the same thing, and everybody's doing it this way. The cop isn't going up and asking the callers, "What did he do?" A real investigation. He's not going and sitting there and just watching the guy and making sure he doesn't do anything bad. Mm-hmm. He's not doing any of that. He just goes up and demands ID, and if you don't give him the ID, then you must be suspect, and therefore he ends up putting you in handcuffs for obstruction.
Right.
And that is how so many people get into the court system.
Well, I kind of love the relevance of this right now because we've got a president of the United States that kind of talks like us, shares our values a little bit, seems to care about the Constitution vastly more than many of his contemporaries. And I'm hearing that he is accused of obstruction for simply not breaking any laws, right?
Well, he said, "I'm not guilty." If that ain't obstruction, folks,
He said, "I don't like what they're doing because there are no grounds," and apparently that's obstruction. I mean, do you see? I mean, what are the parallels here? Do you see between these citizens and these instances, and what's happening to our president?
Well,
he's like a citizen president.
Well, it is the same because the calls, the accusations are fallacious. Sure, there's a guy who's sitting there, and that's unusual. Okay, in that it's correct. But he's sitting there. He's not doing anything. He may be casing the neighborhood, but if so, he's doing it kind of obviously, which doesn't make any sense. But and so what happens?
Is casing a neighborhood illegal?
Well, no. In fact, that's what gets that is exactly the point of all these First Amendment audits at all these government agencies around the country, where you again go to YouTube and watch them. They go in, they start filming, and people come out and tell them they can't film. Well, why? Because it's a federal facilities or state facility or whatever.
They make me cringe.
Oh, they're horrible, but by the same token, they're good to watch how people actually assert their rights and defend our rights for us and attempt
Sounds like a
teach
great way to
these
get
people.
pepperballed, guys. So if you ever want to get pepperballed,
It can be.
Well, yeah, you'd be an arrogant prick and act like you have constitutional rights. I go back to my friend Stephen Mills. He's now a city manager, but had been a chief of police. And he said, I tell my fellow officers, he says, you have to decide when you put that uniform on them or that badge, are you a servant or a soldier?
Yeah.
The ones that go out there as a soldier, maybe they just came back from Iraq and they haven't, transitioned, but their mindset gets to be, I'm a god out here and everybody better bow to me. That's a problem. Most of the law enforcement officers that we all know aren't that way, but it's those few that, their fellow officers don't hold them in check.
and I almost don't blame them. Some of these guys are more well-equipped than our soldiers were in 2004 in Fallujah.
No.
They're getting retired DoD equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting like Bradley fighting vehicles and Class 4 armor and M4s, and they have full militarized gear. And so when you're dressed that way, sometimes you start to feel that way.
Kind of like sitting in this chair made me sarcastic.
I think so.
We've had 40 years of public school training, though. 90% of the children all go through the public schools. They've all been trained to be good socialists, and they've been taught to take the authorities' words.
Let's
I've
while
been so
they have
polite for so long.
while they have been trained to be good socialists, let's actually call it what it truly is. They're good subjects.
Okay.
Because it's broader. It's not just socialism. It's being a good subject, not a citizen, not a sovereign over our government, but a subject who is underneath and subject to the rules of the sovereign.
Well,
Treated like a child playing in the floodwaters, like the mayor treats the children. You see.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that one?
Like
So
the
we're gonna-
Burgermeister?
We're going to get right into the social media smackdown. You see, Mayor G.T. Bynum here recently,
Oh, what?
just with strong words for parents, he says, if you're a parent that's letting your kid play in the river right now, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, I never had a problem with anybody calling the water dirty or filthy or nasty or dangerous or bacteria-filled. In fact, it probably is. But this issue of the way that our leaders, which we don't have leaders, they act like leaders.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be representatives.
Yeah.
Our elected officials treat us like they are our daddy.
Yeah, they're
So-
resorting to shame.
So I made
Yeah.
a comment on Facebook, a parody comment on the mayor's comment. I said, Mayor G.T. Bynum, if you are a mayor that's letting your streets go dangerous and dark by letting your copper wire get stolen from street lights in this city right now, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Boom!
So you see,
And how did that go over?
well, what's amazing is most of the sycophants of Bynum don't read for meaning. They don't really understand. They kept going back to the issues of the water and how parents don't take good care of their children. And so I made a comment that was an issue about shame. Shame is a tool of religion, not of government. It's never appropriate for an official representative of the people to admonish the electorate that put him in office. Mayor Bynum should keep his church separate from his state. A mayor's proper role is to govern the infrastructures and financial budgets within the city's jurisdiction, such as maintaining the security of the city's copper wire system that provide functional lights to make safer streets for all Tulsans. And it's not appropriate position of the mayor to provide some altruistic corporate guardianship over random children playing in the rain. If Father Bynum thinks it's shameful for parents to allegedly allow their children to play in floodwaters, then Mayor Bynum should make it clear the safety concerns he has for the children, make strong recommendations as a top representative of the city, and that parents not allow their kids in the dangerous waters. But it's not the mayor's place to attempt to make parents feel shameful. Shame is a tool of religion, not of government.
Pretty good for a non-Dave.
It's increased. It has been. Yeah, that was really good. It has been increasingly used though, in order to kind of grease the wheels for more taxes. Like you shouldn't get a 52-ounce Slurpee, so Mayor of New York's going to tax them to death. Shaming our choices, whether it's medicine. Some people are now turning to cannabis medicine, and as people want to tax it. Right now it's taxed at twice the rate of your groceries, and yet our other medicines aren't taxed at all.
Well, remember that we are talking about making a law about a philosophical choice.
Yeah.
And that is a direct violation of both the 9th and 14th Amendments.
Right.
And so
you mean the one that grants the right to abortion and anchor babies, the 14th Amendment?
well,
You're
actually,
confusing
it's the 9th. It's the 9th Amendment if you want to use that, but none allow you to violate somebody else's rights. So we'll have to have a longer discussion. But yes, the 14th Amendment restates the 9th because the 9th was thrown out in 1833, and along with all the rest. But it was to try to get the Bill of Rights back into practice in the states.
Yeah.
So
I think he's right on bringing that up, and I applaud you for doing it because it didn't sit right with me. I thought, Sir Mayor, if you have public information you need to get out, you should be explaining why it's not safe instead of just going to shame like we're supposed to already know. I mean, I was in Colorado and there's whitewater. Hey, let's go whitewater rafting, but somehow here it's not. And I agree, it's not. Okay? So it's not safe, but you've got to explain that to people in a way that say, hey, here's some deals.
It's their prerogative. At the end of the day, if people want to engage in unsafe activity, that's their issue.
And this is one of the things I was trying to start out here. We've had 40 years of public school training. And so not only are the children trained to be parented by the authorities, the cops are trained to act like authorities. The mayor thinks he is in a position it wasn't, my beef is not really with the mayor on this one so much it is the Bynum sycophants who can't see the problem when you're a qualifier between the church and the state.
Yeah.
They don't understand the meaning of the word shame is a religious term, and the mayor is shooting it out there like a pastor.
Yeah.
Well, he's just not a priest.
Yeah, no doubt. What else?
All right, let's move on to, before we hit the big Sooner Tea Party, what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, the Freedom Index, as publisher...
What is the Freedom Index?
All right, as publisher of Sooner Politics, I've been reached out to by a number of lawmakers, number one. Let's just say, you know who you are, that you don't feel you were treated right by OPAC and the Conservative Index, or you were treated right by the Reed Index, or especially not Al Gerhardt's Rhino Index, don't you know? So you wanted me to do another index, and I wasn't going to try to take away from what other indexes out there, because they do serve a good purpose.
Right.
However, the issue of individual freedoms, to me, needed to be isolated and dealt with just as the issue of freedom. And so I worked with a number of, grassroots groups and issue groups, whether it's the moms dealing with parental rights, vaccine choice, health choice. I was dealing with the pro-life groups. I was dealing with the Second Amendment groups. All these different freedoms. I said, let's find a set of bills that we can score these folks on. It had to be clean bills. You know, sometimes a big bill will have a bunch of stuff, good and bad. It's kind of hard to score those. So we did. We got a bunch of them. And you know what? Our legislature, hats off to you. You did good.
Nice.
This was a good year for restoring liberties. Our Republicans scored, on average, 64 points higher in the House than our Democrats did. And in the Senate, it was just about that much. There is a difference, folks, in Oklahoma between a Republican and a Democrat, and this shows, especially on individual liberty. Now, my friends on the Democrat side who claim to be big ACLU supporters, let me tell you, the ACLU stands for American Civil Liberties Union, and yet they're voting to take away our liberties constantly. So
Right.
I'm sorry, folks, you just didn't do it. So here's what happened. Instead of going on 0 to 100 spectrum, I said, no, if you vote against liberty, you should be docked points. So you scored wrong on all of them. You're at a negative 100, sir, ma'am.
Nice.
And we go from that to a plus 100, which means you get a 0, you're just kind of half and half. Okay? So despite all that, the Democrats ended up on an average in the House, negative 20. Okay?
Okay.
And
that answers my question.
Yeah.
If anybody got less than 0.
yes.
Generous.
And on the Republicans, on average, in the House scored, I think it was about 38 or 40, close to 40. And in the Senate, they even scored a little bit better. But then I gave bonus points. If you wrote a good bill that I scored, I'm going to give you 5 points for being the author. If you wrote a bad bill that took away liberty, I'm going to take another 5 points off because you wrote this thing, you know. And then I also added another thing. If you're a chairman and you kill a bill without a hearing, and it's a liberty bill, as our group decided, then we're going to dock you 5 points for acting like a dictator, not even giving the thing a vote. And then if you authored one of those, you get it. Well, get this. Nathan Dom, he didn't score perfect on his base score. He missed one. And I scolded him last Saturday.
It's
properly.
a bad index then.
Generally, yeah. And you know what? He agreed with me. When he saw what I was saying, he said, okay, yeah, you're right. I didn't look at it that way. So anyway, but he scored, what did he get? 80. Okay? He got 9 out of 10.
B minus.
Yeah, and well, scoring an 80 in this is like scoring a 90 on the other
fair,
index.
that's fair.
Okay,
You're
and,
negative
but then
100.
because 4 of his bills didn't get a vote in committee,
That's not his fault.
I know. So he got 20 bonus points, and I docked those committee chairmen for that.
Okay.
And so he ended up beating the index. He scored 110.
Nice.
He's off the spectrum.
So
And-
you've got all these documented. You've got your scores all
It is.
codified.
It's
but
on-
I mean, you've got your codified scores, so we can build the board game.
Yeah, there we go. I think we should start. You know, they have fantasy football. We should have fantasy legislature. We should do a draft of legislature. Would that not be good? That would be cool.
Moto's been big on that.
That would be
I'll
awesome.
see that.
All right, no, it's my idea. I'm going to patent it.
I mean, you totally came up with that just now.
So, but anyway, yeah, our legislature did really good. The speaker, the floor leader of the House scored really high. I mean, it just was a good year. And in fact, Saturday, we were down there at the state committee, and I think our #1 freshman, you tell about it.
Well, it was Dean Davis. Yeah, he was pleased to hear about that. We were on the phone for quite a while Friday evening, and I'm not sure I'll tell on him because it's okay. He was one of the only legislators that showed up to the state committee,
One of the few.
but he really didn't know what the heck was going on or what the orders of business were or why he would go. All the legislators were at Tinker Air Force Base, which, you know, I don't blame him.
Hey, it was the air show.
I think the Blue Angels were there, and
Yeah.
I think they had some generals showing around, flying around Blackhawks and feeding them hot dogs. So, you know, I couldn't blame him this time, but they typically don't go. So he was the #1 freshman. I think he tied
Jay Stiegel
for second place in the House on your Freedom Index.
Yep.
And, man, I'm pleasantly surprised because Dean is a really solid, principled guy that is shockingly accessible. Relatable, friendly. I mean, he is the most person I've ever met, nicest guy, and he's got all of these principles, and he's a darn good politician too, because I had no idea what he believed looking at his literature. I mean, he did a good job.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask him.
That's a good politician.
That's a good politician.
You get elected, they don't know what you stand for.
So I had to ask him. I said, you know, hey, where are you on these issues? And like, whoa, he's right. So
he's good. And he told me, he says, look, I came here from the teaching. I've been a public school teacher, and obviously there were a lot of teachers that entered into politics. Jay Stiegel, another freshman, tied with him, so let's give both of them their due. Right after that was a guy that I think for many of us, he was in our doghouse, and he's now Scott Fetgatter.
I always believed in that guy. Who got #1 though?
That was Lewis Moore.
Okay.
Lewis has voted a lot with the Platform Caucus the last 2 sessions, but technically wasn't a member of it. But Lewis is an insurance salesman. He got credit. His bonus points was to restore the ability to write policies for associations, some things that, you know, with Obamacare, they were trying to snuff that out. And he's trying
doesn't have to recuse himself from insurance-related issues?
No, as long as you don't write policies to the state.
Okay.
You can, yeah, and just like, you know, you got,
insurance guys make great politicians. I mean, just as an unrelated aside.
Yeah. All of the legislators bring their, called civilian or whatever, their career expertise. You know, we have school teachers on the Committee on Education, for instance. We do all that. So anyway, it was good. And I like, you know, the fact that we're starting out on a good year and they got good scores. And what I really want to see is let's build on this.
Well, I'm so impressed. Yeah. I mean, we're just carrying the momentum from, I mean, where did it begin? It didn't begin in the convention. I think it began with electing Governor Stitt.
Yes.
It began before that.
We got a good reflection of, well, he was the linchpin
That
to not veto everything.
Well, I think he's the one that made everything click into place.
Yes.
But he made it okay to vote conservative.
Well, and going to what you always want to talk about, and I think it began with people kind of waking up with the Trump presidency and all of that.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say.
My next starting, the ball was rolling.
He is a reflection of Trump. I mean, this really started in 2015, and you know, I've been a big supporter of our president since June of 2015, which kind of leads into a little bit of my confusion and anger about our anchor story tonight, you know, the big Tea Party story.
Yeah.
Because some folks kind of, you know, not kind of, they directly challenged that.
Yeah.
And they directly challenged, you know, my support for the president and the support for this governor.
Yeah. Let me, before we transition into that,
we're not
you can find the index on soonerpolitics.org. It's in our legislative update section of the paper. It also, like I say, was headlines this week.
I'm going to share it to 3D Politics.
Yeah, we'll do that. And but yeah, get that whole score in their hyperlink on each bill. You can read them. You can disagree with me, folks, okay? I'm a big boy. I can take it. But take a look at it, and I think this is something we need to develop. And here's the thing I want to say. Next year, there's going to be a bunch more freedom bills because we're giving them credit for doing it. We're giving them recognition
Yes.
for it. And I told Nathan Dom, he said, I'm going to have people a little bit jealous, like because I'm getting all these bonus points. I said, tell them, I said, just give your bills a vote in committee and you won't get those 20 points. That's all they got to do. And he said, I'll take that.
There you go. That's the right thing.
So there it is.
And he's doing technology too. I was excited about this committee meeting. Probably the most relevant thing.
You want to talk about the Saturday meeting?
Well, to come from it, yeah, it was that
What was it?
technological initiative.
What
Nathan
was this?
Dom is heading it up.
What's the meeting we were at?
Well, the state committee meeting.
Republican Party State Committee, which
Right.
is a presiding committee.
Well, the state, we're a single party state.
No, well, and you actually, Dean Davis gave you his proxy.
Yeah,
right?
he essentially.
So
It was so funny because Dean Davis couldn't stay because he had some really cool stuff to do there.
Air show me.
Who could blame him?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have done the same
Yeah.
thing probably.
Yeah.
And he showed up and he gave me his proxy, but then he said, hey, I don't want to do this again. Can I just give you my permanent proxy? So he asked Kyle Ray, he's like, can he just do this for me every time? I don't know that I have an interest in being here. All my other friends in the legislature say, yeah, this is not something we really attend. And boy, they weren't kidding. But the main thing was Chairman McLean is just a brilliant administrator in the sense that we got done with all the official business in 33 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you've been to some of these committee meetings, there are a lot of motions and side motions, and objections and debate and whatever, and it kind of can really drag out and not a lot get accomplished. He ran through that guy with scissors, and we kind of got a lot accomplished. A little bit dry, but then he announced some stuff that is extremely relevant and pressing for the future. Nathan Dom is heading up this new technology branch where we're interfacing with some technology that the RNC is developing, some databases, some centralization, some cutting edge stuff. I'm going to be completely honest, it's not as cutting edge as I'd like to see, but it's certainly a massive improvement.
Right.
And no one can besmirch the direction they're going in.
Yeah. Now, isn't Oklahoma going to be a beta tester on this?
Yes, because all 77 of our counties go GOP presidential candidate for the last, decade plus, they thought it would be okay to, roll this out in case it's, Skynet or something, right?
So that's going to be great. And what I'll be honest with you, I knew that meeting was coming up Saturday. I'm on that committee too. And so I pushed it to get that Freedom Index out on Friday, just so I could give you
And that was a big
legislators a chance to
story.
do a victory lap.
Everybody was talking about it. I mean, you had about triple the traffic.
Oh yeah, it was
12,000 unique IP, something like that. He was telling
Wow.
us all his nerd stuff, whatever.
Well,
Who cares?
we just really need the grassroots of the party, the energy back home to really stay connected with our legislators and not be afraid of each other.
And there is something incredible happening at Party, and it happened at our convention, and there is this incredible unity.
It is.
Where, the tall building crowd has kind of laid down weapons, and the activist crowd has laid down their weapons, and the young Republicans, and we came together and just unanimously, approved our platform, which, many consider to be the most conservative platform in many, many years. It's the only platform we've had
in 4 years.
In 4 years.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny, people were, they kind of use it both ways. They said, well, this is against our platform. Some of the stuff that happened in Canadian County, it's like, well, what are you talking about? We don't have a platform. Since 2015, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
So,
our
it was a
leadership
good
is awesome. And it was a real, I don't want to call it a coup, but it was a bloodless revolution, I think. And it was a shaking hands revolution.
Yeah.
Where the disparate interests said, hey, man, why don't we just get along and see what we can do? Because, listen, it's true. There's more we agree on, certainly in our party, than we disagree on.
Yeah.
So why in the world would we focus on those issues first, make some real progress, get some stuff done, and then have a gentlemanly discussion, as to what needs to be addressed after that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? And that's kind of where we're at, and I hate to say it's the perfect segue into this Sooner politic reflected story from the Sooner Tea Party. And, this story was something that got out. I had private conversations with some people. They weren't in confidence. They didn't betray my trust. But before I knew it, I was on the phone with Al Gerhardt confirming details of the story. But that's before there was a story. So I'm confirming these details, but it's not for a story. It's just like, hey, is this true? Is this true? Yeah, this is true. This is kind of my account. And, you know, I'm exhausted while I'm giving this account because, you know, of all the stuff that's been going on. And I wish I could do it justice to relay it, but, you know, I want to try to summarize what's going on. There certainly were some very disturbing things going on, you know, against the interests of people in our party, myself included. And I don't like some of the inferences people are drawing from the story. It seems that people are drawing inferences that aren't there, that are not implied.
Set me up with the who, the what, the where, and the
Okay.
what happened.
And just to even further preface this, I did not want this to be a story. One of the big disappointments I have with this is that, you know, I protested the story going out, but I can't control what the author did. And I appreciate the writer trying to stand up for me, and they did. And, you know, this is a factual account that he gives. I don't want to read it. I don't want to go too much into it. I want to hit some of the beats on this because the most unfortunate thing about this is it could, in some ways, destabilize some of that unity we have going forward. But I've worked really hard to reach out with the disparate parties that, you know, were spoken ill of, perhaps deservedly, though, according to objective accounts, trying to get them at the table. And I'm kind of proud of them, to be honest, because, you know, Bob Jack did come to the table.
Yeah, let's just ask this, because a lot of people looked at this and said, wow, he's calling the chairman a racist. What are you saying?
Yeah, so, no, I'm not saying that at all. And Al Gerhardt's not even saying that, but he's asking the question. In a nutshell, and I'll go into some details, I've been having a number of difficulties and unusual happenings in my meetings with not only Bob Jack, but with some other party members. And so I had some veterans of the party I was just kind of venting to, you know, veteran activists, and they were trying to hypothesize why I was having these problems. Mm-hmm. And one hypothesis that came out that I openly rejected was, you know, racial bigotry. Mm-hmm. And most of the people that I spoke to put that down pretty quickly. Myself, I was the first. Mm-hmm. I really hate the kind of race-baiting culture we have.
Well,
and
what kind of problems would what problem would you have that would lead them to that conclusion?
Well, you know, I had not led a team that knocked more doors for the state campaign than anyone else in the state, to my knowledge. I won't say that metaphysically, but my knowledge is that was the most. Mm-hmm. We had 7,500, and not a long time we had fewer volunteers. We collect a lot of data. Our internal polling said we were down, and I put this on a resume because I was encouraged to put together a resume to, quote-unquote, serve my president. I was provided with an opportunity a couple of months ago to, quote-unquote, serve my president. I mean, and that sounds kind of as significant as it sounds. I mean, that sounds kind of like a big deal, doesn't it?
I'm still trying to figure out what is it. So you were promised a position.
Essentially, yeah. And then I got a lot of excuses. So I was kind of teased with, you know, hey, there's some statewide positions, or there's this kind of elite deal where you could liaison with members of the Trump administration, the RNC, get to rub shoulders with these guys.
Yeah, and there's a training going on this week.
Yeah, from the 3rd, I think, to the 7th, mm-hmm. And it is a great honor for Oklahomans to be involved with this.
Sure.
Because it is national training.
Sure.
We're only getting just a couple slots, maybe 3, statewide, and not every state's getting a slot. I mean, these are
so
people...
you're one of the few guys who has shown the grassroots effort. You've got the documentation of how hard you've tried, regardless of how it lines up with anybody else's documentation. You get this opportunity to go to a higher level training to do more
to do more. And I get all these stories that are differing from different people.
As to why you're not allowed to go.
I'm not allowed to go. I mean, it goes from we want you, you're the only person we want to go, to all right, are you in? And I said yes, I'm in. To okay, now I've supplied all the information they required, including a resume. I'm not hearing anything. Then I follow up with them, and I hear, oh, I missed the deadline. I said that's weird because I submitted this stuff like hours within when I was asked to submit it. So that's odd.
Yeah.
And then people are getting invited to the program after I'm told I missed the deadline.
Yeah.
So
I know something funky's going on.
Some sort of sounds like a high school clique going on to me.
Something.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing. I'm hearing that a 75-year-old man's replacing me in what's been described as a really high-intensity, fast-paced class that lasts essentially all day, like sun up to sundown, with minimal breaks and homework going
For
back
all
to back
week.
for all week.
Well, anybody can do what they can do.
Sure, but the thing is, and I don't want to, man, I just hate this so much because my last intention was for this to be public.
Okay, you don't have any evidence that anybody in Oklahoma blackballed you or in any way.
No.
Got in the way. You don't have.
I mean,
evidence
I just
that.
have claims for a number of people and a little bit of evidence that I've gathered. And the frustration, the reason why the story got published, a lot of people empathized with me.
Okay.
Essentially, I cleared my schedule. I mean, this 3D broadcast was not supposed to happen today. I was supposed to be at this training today, and then when I got disinvited from the training fairly recently, after being told, by Bob Jack that I was in, and, I give Bob Jack the benefit of the doubt. He's telling me that's just what he heard.
Yeah.
Okay? Now I have to trust him. I don't know that that's true, but I choose to believe him, and I'm sure he's going to provide some kind of documentation in good faith to demonstrate those are the conversations he had.
Yeah.
And I fully expect him to be telling the truth on that, really.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, and then separate from that, you had some other issues that you'd work it out.
It didn't happen in a vacuum, and so
Yeah.
these kind of built up. I mean, I had been testing the waters for a Senate run. I actually officially put my hat in, and so I was meeting the other candidates via Bob Jack, and I had an informal meeting with Bob Jack, a few weeks ago.
That's our county chairman. Right?
Yes, our Tulsa County chairman. And, he had said some things that I repeated to some friends, and they thought that they were odd and inappropriate, and it got me thinking. He had said that there was only one viable candidate out of the 6 that he had spoken to. And, he had also said something that was just offsetting in the sense that it didn't reflect the reality of some of the ground games that I've worked on, including the governor's ground game in the Tulsa metro area. He said that this one candidate would have 100 volunteers knocking doors in a weekend. And how many campaigns have you guys knocked doors for?
Well,
Have you ever seen 100 people knock doors?
But look, give Bob some slack here. That's his perspective.
Sure.
Well, what's the beef you have?
Well, he was talking this guy up. I mean, he literally called him a rock star.
Okay, and you feel that Bob should remain neutral on this?
I think that's the issue. What I feel, based upon just objective beats that Bob and I do not disagree on.
Okay.
What was discussed, it seems like he was saying, questioning me why I would run. I want to know if he questioned the other guy why he would want to run.
Okay.
And it just really seemed very dismissive of anyone else's viability. And man, there are some solid people that are not myself, okay, that I think are running in that race. People that I compliment that are not me. But in any case,
we can't turn this into a campaign platform for you, but it's
well, that's fine. I mean,
but tell us
literally the opposite of what I just said. I said there are people that are not me that were doing great. So,
I know.
But in any case,
Oh boy.
I had a subsequent meeting with this candidate and Bob Jack.
Okay.
And what I felt was really inappropriate, and Bob has been stand up about this. I got to give him credit.
Yeah,
I spoke to Bob this morning, and let me tell you, I don't know that I could be more pleased with what he said, and we'll talk more about that later. Probably not tonight, but he started answering questions for this candidate as if he were representing them, in my view. And I asked some close friends of mine, "Is this appropriate, or am I just insane?" And they said, "No. He should let this fellow, who is a grown man, answer his own questions."
Yeah.
And so it just felt like, to some, and people I'm not going to name, I mean veterans of the party, that this was inappropriate.
Okay.
So that's and some other things. I will tell you, Al Gerhardt's story, the hard fact areas of it, they are correct.
Okay.
Now there is a little bit of an editorial narrative that comes in where he surmises some things.
He does.
He determines this or that, or he's coloring it. His kind of interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And that interpretation it's obviously subjective, and that I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
But he starts asking this question, well, hey, is there bigotry involved? Well, in my view, and even in Al's view, when I talk to him, we don't believe there's racial bigotry involved.
Not racial bigotry, right.
But what he thought, and what I would attest to, I think there might be ideological bigotry, in the sense of, there's not animus towards people because of what they look like, or what their gender, or something like that. It has more to do with, well, do you have $1 million in your bank account?
Yeah.
Are you involved with certain organizations or not? Okay, I'm not going to mention them.
Is there an official AM radio ban on you?
Right.
I don't know. Just to chime in here, before you can defeat a Democrat in this city or town or state, you first have to break through the ring of honor in your own party. I mean, just try to run. First thing you got to do is just try to get the basic respect out of the basic people who say, oh, we're looking for good candidates, because that is a bunch of crap. First thing you got to do is fight your way through the people who say they're on your side.
Have you done
Look
this
at
before?
Trump.
There's a little pain in his voice.
I mean, they're treating you like a newcomer.
Yeah.
That's the way they treat you.
Yeah.
It's not racial, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You're a newcomer, that's all.
Yeah, and it's weird because I'm not a newcomer.
They don't
I've been
want
in
any
the
fresh.
trenches for
Well,
over
you
a
got
decade.
fresh ideas, and we can't stand that crap.
Okay. I want to say this for Bob. He brings a skill set that is desperately needed and greatly valued here, but he comes from a perspective just like every one of us does.
Yeah.
We all bring our unique perspectives, and this is why the party is designed so that everybody's involved and has their input in stuff. And are you going to be working with Bob to iron out this policy a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Bob reached out to me. I reached out to him. It's really on track. We already have. I mean, it's like a brand new understanding.
Good.
And it's unfortunate the way this had to develop, but there's certainly a respect for me that I felt was not there before. I was told that it was not a good idea to have debates, and that, we wouldn't be having them.
Okay.
And, I was told that we couldn't use certain words
Okay.
at meetings. And I pushed back and said, listen, I didn't use those words out of respect for you, Mr. Chairman, Tulsa County Chairman. And but I don't agree with any policy that restricts my Bill of Rights or anyone's Bill of Rights. To remove people from meetings.
Yeah.
And that was one area where I said, and I've been tired, people, please forgive me if I misspeak. I said, Al had something wrong in his article, and it's he said that Bob was going to remove people from the party if they used the word rhino. Bob did not say that. Bob said something similar in Al's defense, and in Bob's defense. I'm going to give Bob defense here, because I try to be objective and fair. And I want Bob to note, and I want others to note, that I came out very quickly in defense of Bob here, and I mean it. I do not like people beating up on him unfairly. Beat up on him for the stuff he did.
Yeah.
Don't beat up on him for stuff he didn't do. He is not a bigot at all racially, to my understanding. But what he said was, he would remove me or anyone else from a meeting that used the word rhino. Especially if they persisted in using that word. And I didn't agree with that. In my understanding today, if I can say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to have a joint statement with Bob Jack in the future where we come to an absolute understanding and reconciliation on this. He said that he no longer stands by that, but he wants his view to be known. And I said, I want your view to be known. Yeah. He feels the word is divisive and hateful. And I said, I understand that, Bob. I don't disagree with you in many contexts. I feel the N-word is the same, but I don't at all think that we should ban the use of that word because of the Bill of Rights. It's so important. Free speech exists only to protect unpopular speech.
And I think what Bob is probably, if I understood what you told me earlier, is the presiding authority of the party in this county is the county committee.
And he came around hard on that.
Okay.
I mean, I need to compliment him and accolades. He said he mea culpa. I mean, he essentially apologized on a couple of things. He didn't technically apologize, I don't think, but he said, hey, I was wrong. I'm sure he probably will. I don't know. He's his own man. I'm not trying to force anything here. But he said, no, it's the committee that decides that. I don't even have the authority, David, to be honest, with setting debates. And at our meeting, it was disrespectful in my view. He yelled at me in a public place about the debates and said, I'm the boss, is what he literally said.
He comes from corporate America, and by God, he's run it well.
And I said, we're going to have a debate on this. And even at that meeting, he agreed. I mean, and I want to say this too. I worked with him on the platform committee, and a lot of my ideas couldn't have been in the platform without Bob Jack, who studiously went to incredibly quickly distilling the ideas I had and committing them to text with a lot of energy. And he did it regardless of whether he agreed to those ideas or not. So I've seen him operate at a very high capacity, and he's a really smart guy that does bring a skill set. And by the way, that's what I typically always say about Bob.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a conversation with me about Bob Jack, I mean, what have I said about him?
Yeah. I want to say, in my 35 years being involved in the Tulsa County Republican Party, we've had one chairman who ran for a second term. Most of them 2 years, and I'm out of here. And you know what we pay them? Nothing. You know what it costs them? A lot. And then there's the learning curve. And Bob has surrounded himself with a lot of good counselors. He's pulled on a lot of the very successful county chairmen and stuff, but it's all a learning curve, and we just have to now extend grace to everyone involved in this who is of goodwill and willing to move forward. And that's what I'm hearing you saying.
Absolutely. This will not undermine the unity of the party at all. And I said this online, and it's absolutely true. I have never, not once, encountered any racial bigotry among any Republicans, whether they're involved with the party official or not, ever. But on a routine basis, I encounter it from Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had a trans person threaten me with physical violence for wearing this hat. I had 2 Democrats threaten me with physical violence for wearing this hat. I had Democrats that I graduated high school with threaten me with direct and immediate physical violence for ideals that I had, mainstream political ideals that I espouse in a calm and collective way. They said, you know what, those words are akin to violence. And where have we heard that before? I mean, it's very authoritarian. Yeah. So, and I'm just going to defend Al on this. I think he heard something, he was outraged. He knows that my plan this week around this event, and people kind of callously said, oh, no, sorry, that's life, you're not going. Then I heard all these different stories, and now Bob is working on figuring out who gave him the wrong information. He was fed wrong information, so he can only give me the information he's told. I mean, there is someone here that is, oscillating on their story. Yeah. There's someone that would not accept, and this is what made me really mad. This was the cinder block that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And I started talking to people privately, and it got back to Al Gerhardt, probably because of the people I spoke to. And it was that I was routinely being called a liar, and that was being reflected by people that were saying they were on my side and defending me. And I was being called a liar about my resume. And then they would try to tidy it up with the euphemism, he padded his resume. And I asked specifically on what, because I said, and I got firm. I talked to Chairman McLean, who's been, great in this. He's one of the people that really pushed hard for me. And I said, make them show you the lie, because I can prove to you I'm telling the truth. Can they prove to you that I'm lying? I have tax records. I have emails that prove that I did this role. And imagine not only doing a job, but being told you did the best job, and then coming in and putting that on a resume to move up in the party, to serve the party for unpaid positions, to pay money to serve the party more, and then be told, well, you know what, you didn't do that at all.
And I want to say this. The RNC, the National Republican Party, is not the boss of the Oklahoma Republican Party. They're coming in here and using our facilities this week and our graciousness, and we had to work hard. I believe some people were down there cleaning that place up.
Well, I didn't include that. I mean, yeah,
you were
I
down
cleaned the place up for this event, and I didn't know
Yeah.
it was for the event. It was very secret.
And I don't want to see our state party leaders parodying the line of the Nationals for something that was disgraceful is done. And if it's still happening today, that in the face of all these facts, that your character is being disparaged by the RNC and repeated by our state party, then there's going to be hell to pay on that.
Just, I want to say, as a total lack of professionalism, who requests a resume from you?
Multiple people.
Well, man, but for this
Well,
issue,
where did
you submitted a resume
What
according to
was it
someone's
the
request.
RNC?
I gave a resume to State Party Chair David McClain. I gave one to
Okay, but who's the boss?
Tom DeMont.
Well, no,
this
who-
was all unclear. I guess Tom DeMont was the liaison between
What
the
I'm
State
trying
Party.
to get at is
and
whoever requested the resume information, if they just glossed over it and said this looks good, and then one of their constituents or co-workers or whatever, colleagues, comes in and says, oh no, this D'Ambroso information, this is incorrect, he's not telling the truth, then the professional thing for the person to do is to call you up and clarify the issue and do a follow-up.
I got a follow-up from a national party.
If the information starts getting scuttlebutted around in gossip, again, we're back to the high school clique thing again. Because they're just damaging your career and your name like a bunch of high school students.
In my opinion, it was very disrespectful and unprofessional and even callous, because I provided the information, the phone number to call, to clear up the confusion. Someone reached out to me from the national apparatus, and I'm not going to say who.
Yeah, but here's what I want to say on that. It doesn't matter if you're a private individual or considered a public figure. If somebody knows something's false and they repeat it, it is still a slander. It is still a libel. It is still actionable. And I don't want to see our state party sued because they are continuing a narrative. I don't want to see our national party sued because they're continuing a narrative. It's time to own up who's ever doing this. Because from what I'm hearing, and I'm not going to cite my sources, I'm hearing that narrative today.
Yeah, and that my sources, which I don't know if they're David's or not, but I'm hearing that too. And what I was saying though before is I provided the information, the route to clear it up, and as far as I'm aware, that wasn't pursued. So we're still figuring this out too. And I mean, it sounds to me that someone's got explaining to do. And, you know, we don't come with an axe, we come with a hand outreach to reconciliation. But at the same time, you know, you've got to stop doing unsavory things, right, in order for that reconciliation to
Let's
be
wrap
realized.
this up. Any other comments before we get out of here?
No, I want to say, you know, I would feel Bob's pain if I were the one being written that article. You know, it hurts. It doesn't matter if you're a private individual or public. It hurts, and you want to clear your name. And I salute you this early in the day today. You didn't wait till tonight to clear the air on that, and that was the upstanding thing to do.
This is the first day of my vacation because you know I can't.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be on the road. I mean, you know,
Well,
hello North Dakota friends. You know, I'm still here in Tulsa.
So you were first going to spend this week getting trained by the party to provide greater leadership, campaign management college it's called, and then you said to family, okay, they're not allowing me to do this, let's make this a real family vacation.
And now we're on Plan C, and Plan C is, wow, maybe the same thing is happening to Bob Jack that happened to me, and I don't find that to be acceptable.
Yeah.
So, you know, if someone's besmirching Bob Jack and it's unfair, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Just like I've been outraged that it happened to me, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't stand up for someone else that might be happening to.
Yeah. In my understanding, this is all you've been dealing with today. is this.
Yes, since 3 this morning, I've had 10 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. You know, it sounds like to me Bob is trying to clean up the decorum. He wants proper decorum in the meetings. That's why he's pressing to rid certain words or whatever. We're seeing this kind of stuff even at the highest level. You know, when did you choose to use the word spy? I mean, we're really getting into people's chosen semantics. But I think you've done a great job of countering what could have gone awry, and it could have gone downhill real fast. But I think Bob is trying to clean things up, and I think
He has excellent intentions.
Yeah. There's got to be more control over the discussions about people that people got to understand. This isn't high school. This is real business.
And I like him, and I've said this to Bob before. I said, you know what, I really like you. I just don't know that you like me. And he has done a lot to kind of clear up, you know what, I might start to like you a little bit. So
The important thing is that we all have a mutual respect for each other.
And that's the key. You don't have to like anyone or love anyone or whatever, but we have to respect each other as equals. Where that is a given, where that's valid, and we are equals in this party, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We have a structure. I mean, we have a structure, and we need to follow the structure, But nonetheless, the respect has to be mutual in a political surrounding.
All right, Tom McKay, your host here on 3D Politics. We're going to see you again next week at 7 p.m. I'm with David D'Ambroso, David Oldham, and David Van. I'm Tom McKay. We'll see you next week on 3D Politics.
And cut.
Kill that.
If we can. Who knows how?
Okay, yeah. Whoops. Here we go. I got to hit finish.